Hello everyone and welcome to A Slice of My Life. This is a review video of the Persuader spinner designed by Vahit of Bade Modern Designs. I believe most of you have seen pictures of this particular spinner floating around on the Facebook groups. Yes, this is a prototype that I have in my hand and I've had the pleasure of having it for the last few months, I would say at least 3 months, and it was handed over to me by Roy because Roy of RP Innovations is going to be the distributor of the very amazing, very cool looking Persuader. Now the reason why I've had this for such a long time but never ever made a review video or even talked much about it is because there are a lot of details about this spinner that have not been finalized yet. We have to wait for Vahit and Roy to actually share it with all of us, but I've decided to quickly take a video of this because I'm going to send this back to Roy very soon. So this isn't really like a quick look video or first impressions video because I've actually spent quite a lot of time with this, and I gotta tell you guys, I really like it because the design is super cool and at the same time it's really heavy. Now this is heavier than what I generally like, but for some reason it really works out because of the design. So let's talk about the aesthetics first of all. Clearly you can see that the Persuader is designed after what looks like a pair of sledgehammers. It's just awesome looking. At the same time, it's got these carbon fiber inserts, and let me tell you guys, these are real carbon fiber inserts. They have been beautifully cut out as inserts for this particular area, and there are 2 on each side, and I think that they have been glued in some way. I'm not so sure. I didn't try to pry it out for obvious reasons, but these actually add a very beautiful touch to the amazing spinner. Now the whole spinner looks like dual hammers or dual sledgehammers, and let me tell you guys, Vahit did not scrimp on the design aspects. Look at the insides here. Like, there's so many nuances and details and so many facets here that is just so cool. Like, look at this part. Look at all this. And the thing is, even though this is a prototype, everything has been very nicely rounded. So I would say that the machining of this is actually pretty good. Now on the sides, there are gigantic trit slots, and guys, I really mean huge. These are like 3.5mm tall by 14mm wide, and this is by far one of the deepest trit slots I've seen so far on a spinner. I have to apologize because I don't have the relevant trit size, but at the same time, even if I did, I don't think I would want to install it simply because this does not belong to me. I'm gonna have to send it back, you guys already know. And to top it all off, everything has been polished. Look at that shine. Very beautiful. It's not perfect, of course, because on the insides here, even though it's very rounded, you can see that it's not polished very nicely here. I think that those areas are actually kind of hard to reach, so I'm not going to fault them on that. Now I'm going to undo the buttons because you guys can tell that these are actually really wide and really tall. These buttons do have steps going inwards and they have a little divot in the middle, but the styling of the buttons are very reminiscent of the last room standing Axis micro buttons. Of course, they are not sharp. It's very nice, it's very comfortable. You don't get any kind of scraping feeling or any kind of biting sensation. And at the same time, these are dedicated buttons, which I really love. The only thing is, these buttons are really proprietary to this spinner frame. As you can see, the stem itself is really tall. Here I have an arachnophobia with me, and you guys know that the arachnophobia features a bearing retention system, but you can see that it is much wider than the arachnophobia. And I believe that the reason why this stem is so tall is because originally the Persuader was designed to have a dual bearing system, very much like the CKF PSYK S. However, this prototype features a single bearing system, which is kind of strange because you actually have screw threads here on the inside, but you actually have a slot that is machined out to sit just one bearing. See that, guys? It's a little bit strange to me, so I don't know what happened here. It could be a miscommunication, I'm not so sure. But one thing I will say is that these screw threads serve no purpose at this point of time. Like, the buttons don't even have screw threads that actually fit there. See, so I believe that there was some kind of a cap here that might be missing, and no, it is not the standard bearing retention cap because these are just much wider. Now with that said, these buttons actually have a very tall lip on the underside, and what happens here is that the lip actually goes around the center core and it actually covers quite a lot of that stem. See that? But it doesn't impede on the performance of the spinner at all, which is unique, but that also means that the buttons and the spinner are completely proprietary to each other, and there's no interchangeability at all. So you're only stuck with these buttons for this particular spinner. Yep. The good news is that it looks really good together. I like the fact that there are some design nuances on the buttons so they're not plain, and I'm glad that Vahit did not skimp on the design aspect of the buttons as well. The only thing I would say is that I wish the buttons were a little bit more concaved, or at least these steps will be made a bit deeper because this spinner is really heavy. Now, any one of you out there who love heavy spinners, you're gonna love this one. I actually have a tungsten Proxima with me, and yes, these are custom buttons. Like it? Look at that, it's my name on the other side. So it's my channel and my name. Anyway, it's not about this. But the tungsten Proxima weighs in at about 125 to 150 grams. And I'm going to tell you, this is way heavier than the tungsten Proxima. So I would say that this weighs in at least 160 to about 180 grams, which is heavier than what I generally prefer. But I mentioned earlier that for this particular design, it just makes sense to have it a little bit heavier. And it is precisely because of the weight that I wish the buttons offered a little bit more grip. Whether or not it's a different design, or whether or not the dish or the concave would be a little bit deeper, I think that this would actually help a lot. And of course, a quick size comparison for you guys. This is the Persuader against a stubby, and it is much larger than a stubby in all aspects, guys. In all aspects. Just look at that. Just look at that monster. Such a monster. I love it. I really love it. Now, at this point of time, I want to mention that I took a couple of timed videos and I will not be sharing them because it's super boring. And the reason is because this beast is getting about 11 to 12 minutes on a two-handed table spin. So I'm just not going to put the video up there because it's going to be boring for you guys to watch. You know, this thing just going to spin for days and days and days. I mean, by days, I mean 11 to 12 minutes, okay? You get what I mean. Now that the aesthetics are covered, I will talk about the fidgetability of this. Yes, first of all, you can table spin it simply because the buttons are taller than the spinner frame itself. There's ample clearance between the button height and the spinner body itself, so no problem spinning it on the spinner board in any slot at all. And I'm really happy about that. And my favorite way of fidgeting with this guy is of course preloaded flicks. Now this is super satisfying. The way the spinner is made is as if this part over here is meant for your finger to rest on. You can see that there's an angle over here, but at the same time there's a little notch here. Now the design nuance over here, I don't know if this is intentional or not, but it provides a really comfortable spot for me to rest my middle finger here when I'm performing preloaded flicks. At the same time, I can also reach out here and perform a preloaded flick. Either way, it is really satisfying because this is almost like a very perfect distance for me. I mean, it's a personal thing, but it's almost a perfect distance for me to have my middle finger with my index finger holding the button like this. And at the same time, I could also employ the use of my fourth finger on the outer notch over here. You guys see that? So I could have a really nice, comfortable and satisfying grip before I perform that preloaded flick, just like that. Guys, this is really satisfying. I love performing preloaded flicks on this. This just feels so good. But on the flip side, forward flicks are something that I don't really enjoy too much because I feel like I have to pull it back a little bit just to get some momentum coming back and also to get the spinner into position before I actually push it forward with my middle finger. Now this doesn't really feel as satisfying as performing preloaded flicks. I have to admit, maybe because of the heft, I'm not able to give it a nice forward smack. It could be the reason, I'm not so sure. And it's actually not very comfortable because it's quite a lot of space over here, so I don't actually feel like a nice area for my finger to rest in. Yes, on the outer edges here and here, these are actually very comfortable. Like, you could consider them as finger huggers, but your finger never really rests in there when you're performing flicks. As you can see, it just slips in and out like that very easily. So it's something that I don't really enjoy as much. Don't get me wrong, it's not bad. It is not bad at all. It's just that I don't enjoy it as much as performing preloaded flicks with this guy. This is just an amazing experience. This is just an amazing sensation. Now changing it up from an index finger to a middle finger and thumb grip, fidgeting with the index finger is actually quite a joy. But while push forwards are okay, they're only okay if it is in here. If you actually land your index finger up here for some reason, push forwards on this just doesn't make sense at all because this is such a flat surface that your finger just slips out. See, so there's almost no grip. Sometimes I feel like my fingernail actually flicks on the inner edge of the trit slot out here, which is a kind of strange sensation and I get absolutely no power from it. But pullbacks is good if you're on the flat surface. However, pullbacks on the edge like this just does nothing to satisfy you at all. Like this also has no power delivery. So fidgeting in this particular manner isn't as satisfying because it's a 50-50 chance depending on where you actually have your finger landing on. And last but not least, when you perform pullbacks here, you have to make sure that you pull your finger far back enough. If not, you will get the hammer smashing onto the back of your finger, just like that. Yep, sledgehammer all the way, guys. So this way, it's not too enjoyable. And of course, fidgeting with the fourth finger in this particular grip, you're gonna need a little bit more finger strength because I clearly do not have enough strength to have a good solid flick with my fourth finger in this position. So bringing it back to a full circle, basically index finger and thumb grip, performing preloaded flicks is the way to go for me. Oh, of course, not to mention two-handed spins are also really fun. The only thing is that it's really wide if you grab it this way, so you're gonna have to get used to that. But apart from that, basically two-handed spins are quite okay with this. not an issue at all. Now you guys can tell that this spinner is clearly designed to get long spin times. I mean, I'm easily hitting 12 minutes on a two-handed table spin. I mean, no matter how you look at it, guys, from the middle stem right here, I mean, at least for this particular spinner application, because this is a single bearing version, I don't know if there'll be a double bearing version, but because it is a single bearing version, you have the bearing sitting right here, you get the weights being thrown out, and this is more than double of the size of the bearing, or I would say the height of the bearing. So it's got this weight thrown outwards here, and at the same time, you got weight thrown outwards this way. This is just crazy inertia. And at the same time, it also means that the spinner is really heavily affected by the gyroscopic effect. It kind of feels like the spinner is doing this in your hand as you torque it across the axis. So that's something that you have to take note of. I mean, with a design like this, you're gonna have a really long spin and very satisfying flicks and stuff like that. But of course, it will be affected a lot by the gyroscopic effect. There's no perfect situation, guys, and we have to face it. I mean, by now we should all be educated enough about this already, right? And basically, everyone, that is it. This is the Persuader. This one is actually made in stainless steel, which is why it's so heavy. I'm not so sure if it'll ever be made in titanium, because I think that if this was made in titanium, it might be a little bit more fun. You know what I mean? Because it'll be lighter and it'll be easier to flick around. I'm not so sure, but this design is really cool. Right now, it just feels so good in hand because of the heft. But I have to admit that over extended periods of time, this thing wears me out. I do face finger fatigue because of the sheer weight of it. But then again, like I said, this is all a very personal opinion. Some of you out there really love heavy spinners, and if you love heavy spinners, you're gonna love this guy, because this is just... look at it, it's just beautiful. I love the way it's designed. I think it looks really cool. To some extent, this way it looks kind of like a TIE fighter from Star Wars, but it's not. I mean, you could see that it's a sledgehammer-ish design, right? And right now, I really hate the fact that I'm not able to provide any more information about this to you guys, because I guess we just have to wait for Vahit or Roy to give us updates if there's any progress on this. And I really cannot wait for this to be moved into production. I think that it's not easy to machine. I mean, look at that, look at all the details. And at the same time, with the carbon fiber inserts and stuff, and this is real carbon fiber, guys, like this is full carbon fiber and this is real. So everything about this just appeals to me. It just screams my name, and I really love it. And I really cannot wait to hear some good news from Roy or Vahit. As always, guys, I'll put links in the video description down below so that you guys can check out those Facebook pages or groups, or maybe even a website if there's any. And then hopefully we'll all be updated at the same time together by Vahit and by Roy, because updates will be shared there, I suppose. I'm really sorry, guys. No finalized pricing information, no finalized materials, no finalized finishes, no finalized bearing system. I really have to apologize, but I'm really glad that I got the chance to actually experience the wonder that is the Persuader spinner. Designed by Vahit of Bade Modern Designs. The dude's been churning out some really crazy, really awesome, especially dual material designs. So good job, Vahit. Keep up the awesome work, man. And of course, Roy, he's no stranger to the spinner scene. Roy of RP Innovation Singapore. Thank you so much for putting the Persuader in my hand and trusting me with it for the past few months. I really enjoyed it so far. You guys already know my pros and cons about this thing. You guys already know what I like and what I dislike about it. And I guess right now, we'll just have to wait for more information from them. And that's about it, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing in the slice of my life. And I hope that you enjoyed this video, even though the information that I provided is kind of limited. I do apologize once again, but I hope that I provided some good insight to the Persuader spinner, the spinner that a lot of you have seen pictures of in the Facebook groups. And I'll catch all of you in the next slice of my life. Thank you once again, everyone. You guys have been amazing. Gaga. Boost. Stop. Hammer time.